This website is known as cityquiz.io. The concept is pretty simple. Name cities. This is the second year where I've seen how many US cities I can learn over the course of a year. We'll be starting out with the 2024 run, which is the second run from last year's video. So if you just want to see this year's run, there will be a timestamp. If you're unfamiliar with this website, it has quizzes just like this for like the world, continents, and some other large countries. Now, as I mentioned in last year's video, this was done over the course of about a week, as it takes quite a few hours to do this, and it definitely wasn't done all in one sitting. Of course, not every city I typed was recorded, and sometimes I remember stuff off screen and then want to type it in before I forget, start a new recording session, so you don't see it all, but this year I'm going to link the runs in the description. One nice thing about it being super sped up is you don't get to see all my spelling mistakes and all the times I botch spelling cities. The website uses city as a pretty generic term here, basically counts any sort of municipality on the census, whether that be cities, villages, towns, townships, boroughs, census designated places. Basically, it's on the census, it's in this website. Finally, there are actually a couple of places that would be on this list now, but were added after the 2020 census, since that's where this website gets all its data from. So I'll have to keep that in mind for 2030. Now we get to Montana. As you may or may not know, I'm from Montana. And Montana was the first state where I learned all the cities within it. Now a couple times a year, I do a little run through, make sure I still know them all, Now, as I approach the 4,000th city on this run, I slowed it down and be like, woo, city number 4,000. Now, in my 2024 run, I was able to name 4,131 cities. Now, some stats for fun. It keeps track of the small cities. You can see that 18 of them have a population of 0. And also the rare cities, which out of all the submitted runs, how often that city has been submitted. And all of them are 0.1% or lower. And here's just a list of all the states and their counts, so you can pause and see that if you want to. Once again, I'm gonna link the runs in the description. I also made this map to kind of visualize how many cities I know in a state. With the color scale, I kind of try to strike a balance between like the variation within the lower number states while also showing that like there's still quite a bit of variation in like the higher number states. Anything above 200, starts to get into blue, and then above 400, it's purple. And I did change the color scheme from last year's video. Now, in addition to visualizing the raw numbers, I also visualize percents, which as you can see, pretty strong in the West, not so much everywhere else. Except for Rhode Island, because they don't have a lot of cities. And here I'm scrolling through the percents so you can see exactly what. You can see a lot of them are below 10%. Especially Pennsylvania, coming at the last with 2.6 because they have over almost 2,000 places on the census. Chill, dude. Now we're getting into the 2025 run. This is the new stuff. Right out the gate, you probably noticed, color scheme is different. It's a lot more blue. Now that I've been using it, I'm like, oh, this is much nicer. And I look back at the old run, I'm like, ooh, that is kind of ugly looking. Now, last year's video did quite a bit better than expected. In fact, it's one of the most popular YouTube videos I've ever made, which isn't saying a lot, but still, it escaped my usual, like, kind of bubble. And anytime that happens, I always get kind of nervous to look at the comments. I thought I'd get a lot more like thinking this was cheating or faked or whatever. It was mostly essentially along the lines of, I can't believe you didn't get insert city here that seems obvious to you, but isn't to me. Sorry I don't have that much interest in like Oklahoma, Arkansas. Didn't really have an urge to. Yeah, maybe I'll get to it some year, but I thought I was gonna get a lot more comments that thought I was fake. I don't know, there probably were some, I just didn't see them, but I feel like it'd be really weird to fake it and to be like, alright, by faking this, I'm gonna pretend that I know every city in Montana, but also that I only know like 20 cities in Kentucky, I don't know. I feel like if I was gonna fake it, I'd like be a little more evenly distributed, although maybe that's what I want you to think. I find naming cities oddly satisfying, and it's not like it has zero use. People find it mildly interesting that you can name every city in Montana. It's not really a party trick. It does have some use for me as I'm a professional GeoGuessr player. Unfortunately, I feel like I rarely get rounds that show the town name of the thousands of cities that I know, but oh well. Despite the fact that I do know thousands of cities, there are 32,000 cities on this, so yeah. Now we've reached Minnesota. As you can see, I'm being a bit more thorough than last year. Well, now why did this happen? Well, last year I embarked on a trip known as the Big Loop, in which I was planning on going around the contiguous US. One of the states I ended up spending the most time in was Minnesota, and I wanted to retain the knowledge of the cities I had passed through. And I was like, you know what? I should learn some more. Then it kind of spiraled out of control. Now, I probably know more cities in Minnesota than the average person knows in all of the US. At the end, you can kind of see a process where I look at other states trying to remember cities that share a name with a city in Minnesota. Anyways, we skipped through a couple states here before getting to Montana. Of course, we're starting out with the Hutterite colonies before getting to the rest. You can see me check the list for a bit because I'm like, all right, which colonies did I miss? Now, of course, said earlier, as a Montan, I like to have all the places in my state memorized. And my knowledge of places and states radiates from there. The farther out you go, the less cities I can name for the most part. Kind of broke that with Minnesota. Didn't expect that would be the first state I could name more cities in than Montana. I figured at some point I would surpass my Montana count just because, there's quite a few states that have more cities than Montana, but I thought it'd be like California probably. Now, Minnesota wasn't the only state to get a decent improvement. I also took some other trips this year. Went to Oregon, learned quite a few there, and then also some others from the Big Loop. Now you notice here, Wyoming's on a separate map. Well, that's because I wanted to put the completed map links in the description, and the max you can save with is 5,000. So, guess what? I went over that, and I didn't slow down for the 5,000 city because I kind of forgot about that and didn't know which one it was. Now, overall this year, I named 5,457 US cities. You might be wondering, why is it all on one map? You can figure it out. And to answer the question, how many cities did I learn within a year? I learned 1,326. And we'll get to the differences later, but yeah, most of them were in Minnesota. Once again, for fun, the least populated, all 20 have 0 this time, and all 20 are also below 0.1% in terms of rarity. And also, now I'm scrolling through the Excel sheet here for the totals, because, you know, they weren't all on one map, so, you know, put them all on one list here. You can also, once again, go and check the maps in the description. And once again, we have the state map to show how many cities I named in each state, this time with a completely new color. We also have the percent map looking a little bit darker in the west, and I was able to name every city in Nevada this year as well. And now here's the states ordered by percentages. Pennsylvania is still, of course, on the bottom because, you know, they have 1,900. Now to wrap this up, I want to show the differences between the state counts. They are sorted by total difference, but you can also see the percent diff off to the side here. 763 of the cities I learned were in Minnesota. And as you may or may not have figured out, I did not improve in every single state. In fact, a decent handful I did worse in. I did not study that part of the US at all. But you know, thanks for watching. Check out some other videos on our social media, and check back next year to see how many cities I learn over the course of another year.